Hello everyone, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Let me share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes,
So in the last lecture we have covered some locator. So we have covered I think ID, class name, link text, partial link text. So I think we are remaining with the three more locator which are xpath, CSS and tag name. So any confusion in the previous locator to anyone? Okay, I think it is clear. So let us proceed forward. So before that let us understand some basic. Okay, so this is if I want to view the HTML code of this web page. So how you can do, right click and click on inspect. So you will see this code. Okay, so if you see this, if you see these two line. If I say this is the parent, this line is the parent of this line. Why I am saying? Because if I minimize this, you will see this line will disappear. You can see if I minimize it, this line will disappear. But if I reopen it, these two line this line will come, this line and this line, right? And you will see if I minimize it, these three lines will disappear. You can see again and again these lines are disappearing, which means these three are the children of this particular line, HTML line. Is it clear to everyone that what is the parent and child here?
yes,
Like if I take few more example, if I consider this line nav hyphen fill, if I expand it, you will see some line like a script tag is there, div id, form ID, right? So if I minimize it, you will see all these will disappear, which means this div class equals to is the parent of all these elements which are inside it. So how I'm saying, because once I'm closing it, they are minimizing, they are disappearing, which means one is the parent and other is the child. Like if I take some other example, like if I consider this line, if I expand it, you will see three more lines are coming, and if I minimize it, they will disappear, right? So you can see these three are the children and this is the parent. If I minimize it, it will disappear. And if I take some other example, like this one, div id equals to a hyphen page, you can see this, all these are the children, because if I minimize it, you will see all this will disappear, right? So there is one more way to identify what is the parent and the child. Suppose I want to know what is the parent of this line, this highlighted line. What is the parent of this line? So what you will do, you should go from bottom to top, and whenever you will find first downward arrow, you can conclude that it is the parent. So if I go from here bottom to top, whenever you will find first downward arrow, that will be the parent. So you can see this is the this line is the parent of this particular line, because if I minimize it, it will disappear. If I maximize it, it will again come. Like let us see one few more example. If I just click this, not this one, let me take some other website. So if I want to know what is the parent of this line, if I want to know what is the parent, so go from bottom to top, and whenever you will find first downward arrow, right? So focus on the word first, that will be the parent. So if I go from bottom to top, this is the first downward arrow, which means this line is the parent of this line, right? And or you can say this is the child of this particular line. And if I want to know what is the parent of this one, this line, so go from bottom to top, and whenever you will find first downward arrow, that will be the parent. So this is the parent, because if I minimize it, this will disappear. So if you see this, if I minimize it, they will disappear, right? Similarly, if I take one more, like if I want to know, if you see here, if I want to know what is the parent of this line, I want to know what is the parent of this line. So I will go from bottom to top, and whenever I will find first downward arrow, that will be the parent. You can see if I minimize it, all the 5 tags will disappear, tag name will disappear. You can see, right? All will disappear, which means it is the parent and all these are the child. So I think what is the parent and child, it is clear to everyone how you can identify.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me take one more. Mm, because this is very important, otherwise while writing xpath it will you will face difficulty. So if you see, if I expand this, you can see this line, whole line, highlighted line, is the child of this particular line, because when if you go from bottom to top, first downward arrow, this is the parent, and if I minimize it, this line will disappear, which means this is the parent and this is the child. So after we have also covered that what is tag name and what is attribute yesterday. So with this knowledge, give me a minute guys. Okay, so let us start uh, with few more selector, which is xpath and css. So before that, just suppose if I write, if I take one element, this one, right? So here you can see that input tag is present, input type equals to present, class equals to present, right? So there are so many. Let me take some other that can. If I take this, okay. So just suppose instead of class, there is one attribute like type, type, right? So I'm saying just assume a type equals to this, href equals to this, right? So if I want to click on this button, so here you can see I will not be able to use href is not a locator, href is not a locator, and moreover this type is also not a locator, right? We have covered id locator, class name locator, name locator, right? But here if you see, type is not a locator, neither href. So in that way, how we can identify the element uniquely and click on that? So in that way, so in that case comes the xpath and css, which means even if you do not find any, if you find any attribute which is not a locator, then xpath and css can definitely be written, right? It might be the case that you cannot use id locator, tag name locator, but xpath and css can definitely be written for an element, right? So this is, you have to keep in mind that xpath and css can definitely be written for element, right? So if we see what, so first we will cover xpath only. So what is this, how this xpath, what is the syntax of xpath, how we have to write? So if I open one notepad, okay, so xpath locator. So how you have to write it? So you have to first place double forward slash tag name. We have already discussed what is tag name and attribute yesterday. Attribute equals to value. So you have to provide single quotes, two single quotes, and after that you have to provide the value. So if I just write some dummy code here, like input id equals to xyz, value equals to 123, something like this, and after that I will close the input tag. So if you want to, suppose this is the HTML code for a login button, right? So instead of id I can say name, or let me say input type, right? So you can see this is the tag name, this is the attribute, but type is not a locator, neither value is a locator. So how we can identify this login button? I can write one css for that. So this is the basic syntax of css, sorry, of xpath. So write, first provide double slash and identify the tag name. So tag name will always be the first one. So this is the tag name, provide array bracket 1 and close it, and after that provide at the rate, what is the attribute? So you can either choose this one or this one, it's your goal, right? So let me choose this one, value, at the rate value equals to, and after that you have to provide the attribute value. So this is the value 123. So in the single quotes I will write 123. So this is our xpath, and this is, okay, this is our xpath that will define element uniquely. Is it clear to everyone how we have written xpath?
Yes.
So if I just suppose, let me take this one. Suppose I want to enter some data, or suppose I want to click this. If I click this, you will see this drop down will appear. So let me try to click it. So before, how to click any element using click method, first we have to know what is the HTML code. So inspect the element, click this, or let me take this bestseller. I want to click on bestseller. So click this. So you can see uh, this is again a link because anchor tag is present, and after that so many attributes are given. But you can see this is not a locator, this is also not a locator, right? We can use class, that is not an issue. But let us now try to write xpath for that. So you can choose anyone, it's your choice. Like if I choose this one, how we can write xpath? So this is our tag name, anchor tag a. So I will write tag name a, okay, and after that if I am taking this one, this is a attribute, copy this, tag name, array bracket, at the rate attribute equals to, in the single quotes you have to provide this value, attribute value, copy this and paste it here, right? So let me verify whether, so it is very important to, once you have written xpath, so always verify, otherwise it will cost your time. Suppose if you have written the wrong xpath, first your code will fail, then again you will come, and then again you will check. So better to check previous, so that previously as well. So control F, just click anywhere, Control F, paste to the XPath. So you can see 1 out of 1. It is highlighting the best seller complete line, which means our XPath is correct. So validating our XPath, right? You can Control F and do that. So if you come to this console tab, so if you want to clear all the messages, press Control L. It will clear this console. And after that, if you say dollar sign X, X stands for XPath, and in the provide function bracket inside double quote and paste your complete XPath, right? And if you hit enter, you will see length is 1. What is the meaning of this? Length is 1, which means only one matching element is found. And if you highlight this, if you click on this, you can see it is highlighting, which means our XPath is correct. If you see length equals to 2, which means with this XPath, two elements are matching, so that you have to write the unique one, right? So here you can see this is how you can validate either from this one, right? So you can directly paste it here or go to console tab, write $x, provide function bracket, put double quotes, and inside that paste the complete XPath which you have written, right? And you can see length equals to 1 and it is highlighting, which means XPath is correct. So after that, what we have to do, first let me copy the same line. So let us write, I think I have, so first of all we have to set some system property. I am working with Chrome. WebDriver is the key. WebDriver is the key, and in double quotes I will provide the value. So let us see where our Chrome driver .exe file is present. So this is the one where my Chrome driver.exe file is present. So in double quotes I will paste the path, and after that I will say file name Chrome driver.exe, right? And after that I will create the object of Chrome driver, but a reference variable will be of type interface WebDriver. So many times they can ask what is WebDriver, so you can say it is the interface that will have all the common method, right? So they can ask, so Chrome driver web. Okay, so after that I want to launch one URL which is driver dot driver. First you have to open the website, then only you are able to. So this is the website URL. Copy this URL. So copy this URL, paste it here, and after that, again, if I want to find any element, web element, so I will say driver dot. First, I will find the element. How I want to find? This time, if you see, we have done ID, many locators, but this time I am interested in using XPath. So this is XPath function, and here you have to provide your XPath. So paste the XPath. So what is the XPath we have written? You can paste it here. So I will copy the XPath which I have written, and after that, as best seller, right? If you see this, I want to click on this, right? So I will not going to send any data. It is not a text box. So I will click this. So I can say dot click, and this will click on that. Let me check whether it is working correctly or not. you can see it has clicked on best seller with the help of xpath, right? And our program is also terminated. So this is how you can write xpath for any element on the web page. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes.
So if we see one more example, like suppose if I want to write the xpath for this, give me a minute. Someone wants to join, I think. Okay. So if I want to write the xpath for this text box, so first inspect it, right? So if you see, if I try to write with this one, input type equals to text. So let me say Control F, double slash tag name. Tag name is input at the rate type equals to text, right? So I have written tag name is input at the rate attribute equals to value. So you can choose any other. It's your call. So if I go with this one, if I go with this one, as this is a text box, I will write driver. This line will be common. Find the element by the help of xpath. So I provide the xpath which we have written, and after that, as it is a text box, so this method will actually send the data. So if I say watches, and if I just run this program, you will see enter the watches, right? So it has entered, and you will see the results which we have done, which we do manually, right? So later we will see how to handle this. Like if you want to choose any, suppose if I want to click on this, how we can do, we will discuss it in the coming lectures. So as of now, right, we have discussed how we can use xpath to use click and send keys, right? I hope this is also clear. So basically xpath is of two type. One is relative xpath. So the xpath which we have discussed just now, it is called as the relative xpath. So later we will discuss what is the difference between the two. And the second one is absolute xpath, right? So absolute xpath always start from single slash and from root of web page, right? So we will see that later what is the difference between two. So basically this syntax is of the relative xpath. This is called as the relative xpath. And if I talk about absolute xpath, how you can write absolute xpath, so it always starts with the single slash, right? So let us try to write. So let me open one website, right? So this is one website, and if I want to enter some data here, so if I want to enter through Selenium, so I can write relative xpath. I can use any other locator. So you can see, if you want to write the relative xpath, let me write one more time. So if I take this one, input class equals to this, Control F, double slash input at the rate class equals to, right? So this is called as the relative xpath, right? So now I am trying to identify the same element with the help of absolute xpath. So absolute xpath always starts with root of the web page. So basically the root is nothing but the HTML tag. So this is basically from, in every web page you will find this as the first tag, right? So I will start writing the absolute xpath. First I will provide single slash, right? I have provided single forward slash. After that I will write HTML, and after that if you see this text box, if I come up, right, and if you go up, if you see this, I want to reach here. I want to reach here to this element, and it is present inside body, right? You can see this this line is the children to this one, and all. If I minimize this, as we are traversing from starting, as we are traversing from the HTML, first I have to reach here. I have to first reach here, then only I can reach here. So how we can do? You can see as of now I have started from here, right? And if I minimize it, right, so you can directly come from here to this, no issue in that, because I want to reach to the body, not to head. So what I will write slash html slash body. Now you can see yellow part, it is highlighting, which means we are here as of now, right? And after that, if you see I want to reach here, so I do not want to go inside this, I want to directly reach to this point. So I will say slash div, sorry, slash div, right? Now we are here, right? And after that we have to come inside again, because I want to reach to this point. So step by step I'm going. And after that, first you have to go here. So if I will say one more slash div, right? Now if you see, I want to reach to this point again, but here if you see, there are first div, tag name is same, earlier tag names are different. And if you come down, right, if I try to say slash div, I want to first reach here, then I will go inside. So for reaching here, if I say slash div, right, it is saying 12 div tags are matching, because this tag is div, this tag is div. After that, if I have after this line, I am saying slash div, so it will try to identify this one, and if you come down, there are so many div tags, so total of 12 it is saying. So in that case, what you can do, clearly you can see I want to go to the second one, because my element is present inside the second div tag. So I can say slash, sorry, I will provide array bracket, and I will write 2, right? If you write 1, you will going to see the first one, but if you write 2, you will go to the second one. So still I think we are getting more than one element. Let me, I have not resolved it earlier. So after that, after body, if I say div, right, so here as well you can see you are getting three, no, three div tag. So if I hit enter, first one is this, second one is this, third one is this, right? Which means all the three div tags are the children of this body tag. But if you see, I want to go in first div, so I will say div of 1. Now you can see 1 out of 1 matching, which means we are actually here on the first div tag. If you say 2, if you say 2, you will reach second div, right? It is highlighting. And if you say 3, you will go to the third one, but I have to go to the first one, because my element is present inside the first div tag, right? If I minimize it, you will see that element will disappear. So this is the reason I'm saying div of 1, so that I can enter it inside it. And once I'm here, again I will say I have to reach here first. So I will say uh, slash div, right? Now I am here, and inside this I want to reach here, so I have to go to the second one. So if I try to say slash div, it is highlighting many div, so I will say I want to go to the second one. I am here, and after second one I have to reach here. So I think it is again, let me, so we are div. After that, if I say one more div, right, again it is giving me 4. So first one, second one, third one, fourth one. So which one I am interested in? I am interested in the first one, so I will say again div of 1, right? Now one to one element is matching. And after that, if I say one more div, again it is giving, now this time it is giving me 4. I have to go to the second one, so I will say slash, sorry, I will say div of 2. Now we are here, right? One out of one element is matching, and I have to go inside of this, so I will say slash form. Now we are on the form, right? And after that, from form I have to go to this tag, input tag, so I will say slash input. So if you see now, this is okay. So again, if you see, after I'm saying slash input, actually once I am here, you can see one out of one element is matching. But as soon as I say that from the form I want to go to input tag, there are two input tag inside this, right? This is the opening, this is the closing. And if I say slash input, there are two input tag. So which one you want to, you can say either one or two, right? I have to go to the first one because this is highlighting my text box so that I can enter some data, right? So this is how we are going to write our absolute xpath. Is it clear to everyone how we are traversing from parent to child?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can see we are reaching here, right? And if you want to, suppose I want to, if I want to click on this button, search button. So if I say 2, if I say 2, you can see it is highlighting this, which means we are able to identify this web element, and later we can use click method or any method, right? So let me give one as of now because we have to enter some data. So I will copy this xpath. This is called as the absolute xpath. So again, I will say driver dot find element by the help of xpath. So for absolute xpath as well, we have to use this one only, xpath method, and provide the absolute xpath here. And after that, I will say send keys because this is a text box. So I will say enter some data like Selenium, right? And also you have to change the URL of website. So this is the URL. So let me change the URL, and if I run it, you can see it should enter Selenium in the box, right? So it has entered, which means our absolute XPath is working correct. So this is how you write the absolute XPath. So now so let me paste it here, right? Always start from single slash and from the HTML initial of the web page, right? So basically, what is the difference between the relative and XPath? So this is again a interview question. So basically, if I write relative XPath is always preferred over absolute XPath. Let me write because in relative XPath we are not depending on parent node. See what happens if you see this, relative XPath, right? Here for that particular element I am directly writing the relative XPath. I am not depending on the parent node. But if you see here, for reaching to this particular element, which is input 1, I am depending on so many tags, right? So div 1, so this is the children and this is the parent, right? So this is the hierarchy. This is the parent and board is the children and board is the parent, div is the children. Like that we are going. But suppose if somehow this div, like this will change, if any of the tag in between change, like this will become input, because in the big websites many times code will change. So if this input will change, our XPath will fail, so that we are not going to reach to this particular element. So in that case it will fail because it is lengthy, we are depending on the parent node. And if any of the node in between will change at any time, our absolute XPath will fail. So that is the reason we are going to prefer relative XPath, right? As we are not depending on the parent node. So keep in mind that we are going to prefer relative XPath over absolute XPath, right? Is it clear to everyone? Okay, so this we have done. So let us take some more example. Uh, Let me open this Flipkart. And suppose if I want to enter some data, or let me open this. If I want to enter some data here, right? If you see, uh, as you remember that we have written one XPath for best seller. So this is the tag name we have chosen. Let me write it again. Tag name at the rate attribute equals to, this is the value we have written earlier for the best seller. But if you see that this XPath is not looking very good to me, right? Because uh, some complex attribute is here, right? So what I can do, I can use again a parent-child relationship, which means I will start writing my relative XPath from here, right? So if I want to write the relative XPath, how I can write div id equals to, I want to click on this first element, if you see this one, which is best seller, but I will start from here. So if I start, so first of all, let me write slash slash div at the rate id equals to this. So if I validate it, control F, control B, right? Now we are here. From this point, so this is what I have written. This is a relative XPath, right? Because I am starting it from double slash. And after that, if I want to reach to any particular element, like if I want to reach to this mobile, you can see it is highlighting mobile. If I am placing my mouse here, so mouse cursor here. So if I say, and suppose if I want to just reach to the first one, right? If I try to say slash a, like I am combining parent and child. From parent, this is the parent, all these are the children, all these tags are the children, and if I say slash a, you can see it is giving you total 29, right? What are the 29? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, like so many anchor tags a are there. Total count is 29, but I want to reach to only first element. I am not interested in the other. So in that case, what I can say, I can say a of 1, right? You can see if I say, if I am saying a of 1, it is giving me this, right? If I say a of 2, if I say a of 2, now it is highlighting only one element, which is this one. And if I say a of 3, third one, like fourth one, like fifth one. So depending on your choice, you can provide the particular index. If I say 7, so it is navigating to this one. One out of one element is matching. And if I provide the same XPath here, and if I say dot click method, it will going to click on this electronics button, right? So this is basically, we are using parent child relationship here to identify the element uniquely. So this is also one way, right? Is it clear to everyone? So let me right. So this is how we can write, provide the index value. And similarly, if I take one more example, right? So if I want to write an XPath for this highlighted text box, so I can start from here, I can start from here. It's your choice totally, right? So if I, you can see if I write div class equals to navfill, div at the class navfill, and if I validate it, if I try to see whether it is correct, now you can see, we can see one more. If you see, with this particular XPath, I'm finding three elements: first one, second one, and third one, right? So we are getting three elements: first one, second one, because you can see it is giving you two, because uh, class is same, tag name is same, also the attribute value is same. So this is the reason it is giving you three. So if you are facing such issue in XPath, what you can do, you can provide function bracket on your XPath, provide, sorry, not, yeah, function bracket on your XPath, right? I provided function bracket, and after that I will provide array bracket, and here you can give the index. So which element I want to go to first, so I will say 1. If I want to go to 2, I will say 2. If I go to 3, I will say 3. So I want to go to the second one. So if I copy this XPath, and just place it here. If you are getting more than one element with your xpath, you can provide whole your xpath into the function bracket and provide the array, provide the index. So it will identify that element according to the index, right? And if I just run this program, so let me change the website URL. Where it is? Yeah, this one. If I change the website URL, it should enter Selenium. Okay, so I think I've written one thing as incorrect, right? So if I try to inspect it, right? So it, I think it will say what is the error. Let us check, right? So some error came. I think this is it. The reason is if I validate it, control F, right? So you can see it is highlighting. But if you see, if I try to inspect it this way, just click this. Actual element is present here, but we have written the XPath for this one, right? So this is the reason our code is failing. So what I can do after two I can say I am here. If I want to go here, I can say slash div, and after that slash input. So now we are to this actual text box. So and if I paste this XPath, now it should work, right? Because actual text box is present there, but I have written the wrong. So this time it should enter Selenium. Right, it has entered. So this is how you can write combination of parent and child with the XPath, and if you are getting more than one element, you can provide the index. I hope this part is also clear to everyone. Okay, I hope it is clear, no question. So after that, let me write it here. Right, so this is also one of the way, and so we have discussed what is relative and what is absolute, and why relative XPath is preferred, because we are not depending on the parent node, right? So similarly to XPath, there is one more locator which is CSS locator. So or let me okay, so let me discuss. So I have one sheet here. I think it is here, right? So I will share this sheet with you all. So right, what are the locators? So they are used to perform the operations of on the web element. So we have discussed ID yesterday, class name, link text, partial XPath. So this is left. We will discuss it in the coming lecture. What is tag name? How we can use it? So XPath is of two type, absolute and the relative. So this is the relative XPath syntax, and absolute XPath syntax is it will start from the single slash and always from the root HTML. So this is how we have written, right? So it is basically not preferred most of the time, because if any of the tag will change, like if it will become input, so now we will our XPath will fail, because now we are not going to reach it here anyway. We have to write the XPath as again. So this is the reason uh, we are not using absolute. So there is one more selector which is called CSS selector. So if you remember, let me copy this relative XPath syntax. So syntax is very much same of CSS. This is the relative XPath syntax, and if I want to write the CSS selector, So in the CSS, there is no such thing as relative and absolute CSS. CSS selector is the one only, right? So the syntax is tag name. So you have to remove double slash from the relative XPath syntax and also remove the at the rate. Then it will become CSS selector syntax, right? So this is the CSS tag name. Tag name attribute equals to value. This is our CSS selector. So if you want to write the CSS for this, how you can write? If I choose this attribute, I can say input type equals to email ID, right? So this is our CSS selector, right? So uh, let us try to write CSS for this. Like if I want to write CSS for this one, so I can use this one. So if you want to write the relative XPath, how you write? Input. Oh, sorry, not relative. It is we have to write the CSS. So input type equals to text. Okay. So this is our CSS selector syntax. And if I want to write for this one, I can say input. Tag name is our input, and attribute is type. Value is text. So this is our CSS selector syntax. So very much similar to relative XPath. And if you see, if you need to validate again, same step, Control F, paste the CSS selector, highlighting one element, which means everything is correct. And if you want to validate here, so if you want to delete everything from here, say Control L, it will delete. And after say for XPath, if you remember, we have written like this, $X, and in double quotes we have provided our XPath, right? But as it is a CSS selector, instead of $X you have to use $, and provide your CSS. So what is the CSS? This is the CSS. This is the CSS, and hit enter. And if I expand this, total length is 1, which means only one element is matching, and this is the text box it is highlighting, right? So this is our CSS. And after, if you want to work with CSS, how you write this statement? Driver dot find element by dot. This time we are using CSS selector. So CSS, this is the one, and inside that we will provide our CSS. So this is our CSS, and after that send keys, and I will say Selenium again. And if I run this program, it should enter Selenium with the help of CSS, right? So this is how you can write CSS selector as well if you want. Is it clear to everyone? See how we have to write CSS?
Yeah, yes. Sorry for disturb, but basically, if we can see, then only at the rate will get removed, right?
No, no. At the rate and double slash. If you remember, double slash will also be removed.
Yeah, yes. Double
Yeah.
slash and
And
at
at
the
the
rate.
rate,
Yeah, yeah.
rest everything is same. And this you have to use CSS selector. This is a method. Let us
Yes.
discuss few. Someone is asking. Okay. So let us discuss few more variations, right? So I will try to cover all the variations. So you can see we have already discussed why this is preferred. If I come down, okay. So there are so many. So this is the basic syntax of XPath, right? And what is this one? What is this one? Let me open a website. Uh, if I try to inspect this bestseller or this textbooks only, or let me take some other website. Okay. So if I want to see HTML code, This is the HTML code. And if I suppose uh, want to click on this one, this text box, I want to enter some data. So you can use any locator, but here again name is present, so you can use. But we are discussing CSS and XPath. So if I want to write the XPath, let me try to write with this attribute. How you can write? I am talking about relative XPath. I will not going to use absolute XPath much because it is not preferred. Input at the rate type equals to text. This is the XPath we have written. It is nothing but our relative XPath. But instead of that, you can see you are getting how many elements? Total 8, because in total I think 8 text boxes are present and all will have input type equals to text. If you want to see, hit enter. Input type equals to text here, input type equals to text here. So you are going to get total 8 element, right? So one way to identify the first text box is to cover your XPath in function bracket, and after that provide array index, which we have already seen. So it will give you 1. If you want to reach to the second, it will give you 2, right? You can see it is highlighting this text box. So this is one way. So other way, what you can do, if I remove this, so what is the other way is to concatenate some more attribute with the XPath, right? You can see this is the XPath we have written, but with this XPath I am getting more than one element. So what I can do, I can concatenate one more attribute till the time I will get the unique element. How we can do? Like if I try to see, like this is the name. I think this will be unique for each and every text box. So I can say at the rate name equals to, this is the name. So I am assuming that it will be different. So if I say this, now you can see earlier we were getting total 8 element. With this XPath we were getting total 8 element, but I have provided one more attribute of this text box, which is name, along with the value. So this will make the unique. If even if after that, if you are not getting the unique element, suppose if you are still get all the name will also be similar. So you can take one more attribute as well, right? So you can keep on concatenating till the time you will get the unique element. So this is also one of the way, which is called concatenation of XPath. So till the time you will get the unique element, let me write, till the time unique element you get, keep on adding attribute, right? So this is the syntax we have written. And what is these three? So if I talk about this one, right? So if you see here, this website, this is very good website if you want to see these kinds of concept. If I talk about this button, suppose I wanted to write some data, and if I want to check availability, right? So if I take, right, so I want to basically click on this button, and to click on this button, suppose I am using, just assume all the fields are not present, only name is present, right? So if I copy this name and if I say open one notepad, if I place it name here, so this is the name, right? So just assume that you have taken this name, or if I write the XPath, how you can write input name equals to this, right? So you can see you are saying, okay, this is the valid XPath, I will use it in my code and I will click on this button, right? But what happens when you will launch your website through the Selenium? Just assume that this website will be open again through the Selenium. So if I refresh it, let us check what is the name attribute now. If I copy this, if I copy this and paste it here, right, you can see this part and this part, it is constant. This part is constant, but after that the values are changing, right? So if I just refresh it one more time, if I refresh it one more time, just refresh it, and if I try to see the HTML code of this, uh, if I write this one, but at third time, you can see again this value will, which the conclusion which we have derived is that this part every time will going to remain constant, and this part will change, right? So if you try to use the name locator like driver dot find element, if I write in short find element by dot name, and here you will provide your name locator, right? Suppose you have identified this and you have provided name. So as this keep on changing, name locator is not going to work here. It will fail, that it will say that element not found, right? So we said okay, that name locator is not a good option. So now we try to write the xpath. So what is the xpath? Xpath, if you want to write the xpath for that, if I write input name equals to this, if I am trying to write the xpath, so input at the rate name equals to this, right? So this xpath also will going to fail. Why? Because once your website will relaunch, this value will change, right? But here this value will change every time. If you want to see one more time, I will refresh this page. Every time they have designed in such a way that will keep on changing, right? So you can see name again some other value, but first part is remaining constant. If you see this fourth time, again this value is changing. So here this xpath is also going to fail. So in that case, what we can use one xpath syntax that will help us to click on that button. What is the syntax? The syntax is starts with, I am talking about this one. If I copy this and write it here, so now I know that this first part is constant, rest of the things are changing every time. So I can use tag name. So what is the tag name? Tag name is input. After that I will say starts with at the rate attribute. Attribute is, I think it is name. And what is the value? As I'm saying starts with, I'm not going to provide every data here. I will say that this part is constant. So whatever the value that you will start with this one, identify it and click on it. So if I try to validate it, let us see whether we are getting one matching element. So now you can see, even if I remove this, then also it will going to, right? It is just checking the element which is starting with btn. I will identify it and I will click on it, right? So you can provide b as well, it's your choice. So if I say btn, and if I try to just write this in our code, I will write driver dot find element by dot xpath, provide the xpath. So syntax will be the same, and after that I will click, right? And what is the website URL? We need to change the URL. If I change the URL to this one, and if I try to run this, let us see whether it will click the check availability button or not. So you can see it has clicked. Why I am saying it has clicked? Because if you refresh this page and if I click this, you will see the same output, right? So it is saying that first provide the ID. You can do that with the help of send keys. That is not an issue. But here we have to see that concept, that why I am using this BTN only. This BTN, or you can provide this whole, because this part is constant but rest of the things are changing. So you can use starts with method of xpath. Is it clear to everyone?
Yeah.
Yes. Now suppose we let us do the reverse of this. So just assume that the same page, this part, let me write this. Let me write this. If I write like this, just assume this is our check availability button. Now every time first values are changing. These values are changing every time. Like from here to here, these values are changing, but this part is remaining constant. So in that case, there is one more way to write the xpath, which is this one. You can use contains. So ends is not included, right? So you can use contains, or just suppose after that there is some value. Like if I write 4356, some values, so they are also keep on changing, right? So some dummy value I have provided, but this part is remaining constant from here to here. So in that case, if you will face such issue, that how you can unique identify this, normal XPath will not going to work. Now in that case, uh, you can use this one. What I can do, I can write input as the tag name, which is same input, and after that, this is the contains. I will attribute his name. I will say my XPath should contain this value. If I choose this one only, now this will also have the ability to identify the element uniquely. And if I just search it, if I search it here, Control F, Control V. Now one out of one element is matching. It is looking whether this text is present inside this name or not. If it is present, I will identify. And if I try to run my program, driver dot find element by dot xpath dot click. Yeah, we have to click it. And if I save the program, and if I save program, and if I try to click it with the help of code, let us see what will happen. So you can see it is clicked on check availability button, right? So this is the way you can use contains is one of the method to write. So this is how you can write. Is it clear to everyone what is contains? Is it clear to everyone? Okay, I hope it is clear. So let us discuss few more variation. If what is this one, like what is the, if I want to click on this, so what is the text is check availability. So I can use, if I want to click on by text, so I can use this syntax, which is check availability. So if I write the same xpath, right? So here if you see what is the value check availability, so I will write check availability. So this is also one of the way you can click on that button. So I can write what is the tag name? Tag name is I think input. And if I try to search, so what is the mistake we have done? Let me check. I think some spaces are there. So if I copy this, so it is not identifying. Okay, I think here I know what is the reason. Let me take one more website. Basically, if you see, let me explain one more thing. If I right click inspect, okay, so if I try to write the same xpath, which is tag name text equals to, what is the text? Text is best sellers. And if I validate it whether it is working, yeah, it is working. But I think we are getting two. Why we are getting two? First one, okay, so there is some bestseller here as well, I think. So this is the reason it is identifying. If I can do like this, I think, right? So we are identifying this bestseller with the help of visible text. So this is the method we are using. But here this method is not working. You can clearly see I am doing the same thing. This is the check availability. If I copy this value and if I paste it here, right, now it is not working here. So the reason why it is not working here, it will only work, right, if you see that this value, that text value is present inside one attribute. So here it is not working. But if you see this bestseller, if you see this bestseller, if I remove this, if you see bestseller, how this text is present outside of any attribute, right? It is not present inside any attribute. So here you are good to go with text one. Here it will work. But in that case, here you are not going to. Here you have to use some other approach which we have discussed to click on that button, right? Here text method will not work. I hope this part is also clear, that where you can apply this. If the text is present outside of the attribute, this will work. Like if I take one more example, like this one, here text is present outside. So what I can say, input text equals to this. Input text equals to, okay, so one bracket is here. Right now it is identifying with the help of visible text, but only when the text is outside of any attribute. So this is also one of the way we can work with identifying the element with the help of xpath, right? So these are the some features we have discussed. So this part is clear to everyone. XPath, okay. So no questions. So we will see few more with CSS as well. So basically in the CSS as well, if we are writing some locator, so this we have done. This is the basic syntax of CSS. And what is this one? Again, this is the same as this one. Till the time if you are not getting any unique element, you will keep on concatenating the. So suppose if I written this CSS selector, but two elements are matching, so I can concatenate one more attributes just like we did it for XPath, and we will keep on concatenating till the time we will get the unique element. So this is basically the same as this one, right? And if you remember that we have discussed starts with we have discussed. So if I copy this, basically suppose if I want to write, if I open the same Rediff page, so I think this is the one. So as you know that this values keep on changing. as this values keep on changing. Suppose I am working with xpath, so I can write xpath is input name equals to this, right? Unique element, but this value will keep on changing. So if I know that this part is constant, so I can write starts with, but as it is a css, so here in the css they have defined one syntax is for xpath the syntax is this. And if I talk about the css, you have to write to shift and 6, then it will have one this sign, this symbol which stands for starts with in css. So if I write name, if I provide one symbol, shift and press shift and 6, and after that if I remove this value, so this will work. It will identify the value that will start with this particular value, right? So it is starts with, right? And suppose one case is like we have discussed, I think we have discussed like the values like this, some value, after that some constant value, and after that this, right? So if this value and this value will keep on changing, if this value and this value will keep on changing, I can use css how tag name id star means contains, so I will say contains const constant. So this value I can use if it is containing, I can use this one. So if I try to verify here, int id name star equals to this, so which means if any name value is containing this value, I will be able to identify the element uniquely. So this is starts with, sorry, this is contains, and there is one more which is ends with. If I say dollar, I want to get one name which is ending with A30. So if I write A30, A30, right? But here we are getting multiple element. Let me, if I say, if I want to find any element 9ECCA30, this dollar stands for ends with 9ECCA30. If I write 9ECCA30, if I write L, if I write B, right? If you see what I'm doing here, I want to identify the name which is ending with this value. Suppose this value is constant, but previous values keep on changing, so I can use this one. This dollar is for ends with, so this is a part of basically css. So this is also one of the way we can use. Is it clear to everyone? It starts with, ends with, and this is for contains. I hope it is clear.
Sumit, we have ends with in expert as well.
Which one?
Ends with.
Yeah, see, basically, if you see what is XPath and CSS, these are the programming language. Let me write, if you want to see. So basically, XPath ends with is there, but it will not be supported by the browser. If I write XPath and CSS, if I write programming, right? So basically, these are the, let me write xpath, right? So basically, it is also a type of language, and we are getting all the ends with starts with from this language. So basically, what is happening is that ends with is a part of. So there are some version of xpath. So it is a part of xpath 2.0. But our browsers which we are working on, like Chrome browser, Firefox browser, the browsers only support the functions from xpath 1.0. But uh, function of ends with is a function of xpath 2.0, but browser only supports 1.0. So if you try to write ends with ends hyphen with, it will not work, right? It is there, but it will not work in our browser, right? So if you try to see, it will not work. Let me, where it is, this side. So input type equals to, or let you, if you want to see that xpath ends with not working, you will see so many why it is not working. You can see the ends with function. The function is coming from xpath programming language, is a part of xpath 2.0, but browsers like we are testing with Chrome generally support 1.0, right? So basically it will not be supported. You can use contains if you want to use. Is it clear?
Yes, Sumit. Sumit, one more thing. What is
Yeah.
the difference between the text property that we checked, right? Text and inner text.
Which one?
Inner text and text. There, like even inner text is an attribute, right?
What you are saying? Your voice is breaking.
Inner text.
What
What is the
inner text
difference
you want to?
between inner text?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. What you want to ask?
Yeah, the difference between text and inner text.
So basically, we will see all that. Do not worry. I have to discuss this as well. But in the coming lecture, we are going to discuss. Right? We should not discuss each and everything here. Right? I will
Okay.
discuss that in the next lecture. I am going to discuss what is the difference. So if I let us see some shortcut. What do I mean by shortcut? Like if you see this Amazon website, so you can take any website. I am just if you write this one. So if you see that I want to enter some data in this, you can see in this text box. So how we can do? We can write any locator. So suppose I am writing xpath. So you know how to write xpath. You can do in this way, like input type equals to email, input ID equals to email. But here, suppose I want to go with CSS. Like you know the ID. This is the ID. So you can use ID locator as well. Like if I write, you can use ID locator. But suppose I want to use CSS. So what I will do, I will say CSS has one shortcut. If you know ID, no ID of any element, just say hash, provide this hash shift for hash and ID. ID, what is the ID value? This is the ID value, and this will be your CSS selector. So this is a shortcut, Control F, Control V, right? Identifying one element. So in your driver.find element, how you will write? Driver dot find element by dot xpath, sorry, by dot css. Provide this and dot, we have to send the data. So send some number like this, right? So it will work. So basically this is the uh, shortcut of css, right? If you know the id of any element, you can use this one, right? And similarly, if you want to, suppose there is one class. If you see this class, if I, is there any class here? Okay, so let me take this. I want to click on this button. So you can write any selector you want, but we are discussing some shortcut. Like if I am working with, you can say I want to write CSS. So if I know the class of any element, I can use dot class name. Simply this is the shortcut CSS. If you know class name of any element, simply use provide dot operator dot dot class name. This is one shortcut. And here if I say dot, class name is this. So if you see control F dot class name, so this is our xpath, sorry, this is our css shortcut. So I will copy the same css, and first you will invoke the url, and the rest of the things will be the same. Find element by dot css, provide the css, and after that whatever the operation click and send keys you can perform. So this is how you can use dot class name, right? And there is one more. If you see one, yeah, if I try to see this one, right? Suppose this is my button and this is the class. I know the class, and if I try to say dot class name, which we have just learned, that if you know the class name, you have to provide dot operator. So dot operator provide the class, right? But here, if you see that element is not highlighted, because if you see this class, there is one space between the class, and this is the second space between the class, right? So two spaces are present between the class. So if you convert that into CSS, you have to replace all the space with dot operator. You have to replace all the space with the dot operator. So how you can replace? So there is one space. Remove the space, put a dot operator, and from here remove the space, put dot operator. So now this will be your CSS. So this is also one of the way, right? So if I write it here again, how you will write driver dot find element by dot CSS selector, and after that whatever the operation, right? So this is also one of the shortcut. Is it clear to everyone? Is it clear to everyone, guys? Okay, I hope it
Yes.
is clear. So let us discuss few more, like if we are working with xpath. I think we have already covered for xpath. If I write xpath for this, span id equals to continue. So if I write relative xpath span at the rate id equals to continue, right? Sorry. So this is, and if I paste it here, okay. So now we are here, but somehow my requirement is to reach to reach to this particular input. So in the relative xpath, we provide single slash. After that, if I write input, sorry, not input, it is After this, we have to first reach here so that we can reach here. So I will say span slash span. Now we are here. After that input, if I say slash input, now we are here, right? So if I want to uh, if I want to do the same thing in the CSS, how we can do in the CSS? So let me write the CSS first. So remove at the rate, remove double slash. Now this is a CSS. Now I want to reach to this span. So here you have to provide shift and greater than sign. After that I want to go to span, so I will write span. And after that I want to reach to input, so I will say greater than sign. After that input, right? So this is how you can do with the CSS. But here our things are simple because only we are getting one unique element. But suppose, as we discussed with xpath, if you are getting more than one element, you can say array bracket. Like if I take one example from Amazon itself, let me write the relative xpath again. Suppose I want to reach here. So I will start from this div at the rate id equals to this one, right? I am here, and from here I want to reach to, sorry, this is xpath, so I will say slash a. But as soon as I will say slash a, it will identify all the children. So if I say a of 1, I will be coming to the first one. If I say a of 2, then this one, a of 3, this one, a of 4, this one. So if I want to do with the CSS, how you can do? So let me convert it into CSS. So this is the CSS. After that I want to reach to a. So if you say slash a, sorry, not slash, it is greater than symbol. Again it is identifying all the unique attribute, right? So if I say after that, if you want, you cannot say like a of 3, as it is noticed xpath, you cannot say a of 3, a of 4, like this. So basically you have to do like this. You have to write nth minus child hyphen child, you can say 4. So I think what is the mistake? Yeah, so single colon, not double, single colon you have to provide, and you have to write this nth child function you have to use, and provide the index. If you want to reach to 5, you can say 5, you can say 6, 7, 8, right? So based on the index it will give you. So this is how you can traverse to any particular child based on this nth child. So this is the same thing I have written here on this one, right? So if you provide this last child, what will happen? So this is basically you can give index. But if you want to reach at the end, you can use, you can simply say a last child. A last. Now it is not working. I think some issues there. Let me check on the other website. If you want to, let me take this. Hmm. Or let me take some another. I think the last child is not a. Last child is somewhat different. Let me check. If I do in this way, 29, 28. So we are on 20th child. I am saying that I want to give the last child. But if you see the last child is this. I think this is 29, total 29. If I hit enter one more time. Okay, so I have to go from 29. If I say 29. Now we are here. and I'm saying a last child, but it is returning me nothing because the last child is this one, not this one, right? If I take one website, there you can see we will going to get the correct element. Here it is not a last child, so if I okay, so let me take this example. So if you remember, if I write CSS div id equals to header div, I am writing CSS id equals to header. So let me take div id equals to page so that we can get some more than one element. Div id equals to page. After that, if I say div, I want to go to div, so I will say greater than div. Now you can see four element 1 2 3 4, and if I try to say last child, now as div is the last child of this, you are going to get this, right? And if you say first child, it will navigate you to first one, unique element. But if you want to go to second one, you have to say nth child 2, nth hyphen child 2, right? So this is how you can reach to any particular child by giving the index in CSS. Is it clear to everyone? Right, so this is the few shortcuts we have discussed along with this one. What is first child, what is last child? So it is very similar to XPath, but you have to use the some other function in CSS. Right. So let us discuss one more method. Suppose I want to get this text. If I want to get this mobile text, so let me open in the original browser. This one. If I want to fetch the text present here, if I want to get the text of this mobiles, so first I need to write the CSS and XPath. So if I try to write, let me write CSS this time. A nth child, let me take this, right? So I want to get the text present on this, right? So first I will write the CSS. So this is the CSS I have written, yellow line. So we are here. I want to fetch the text. So what I will do, I will copy the CSS which I have written, and I will comment it. If I say driver dot find element by dot CSS, provide the CSS, and if you want to get the text of any element on the browser, there is one method which is get text. This is the method we have to use, and after that if I say I will catch that name in one variable, and I will write name, right? And if I run this program, you will see it will fetch the text based on the correct CSS or XPath you can write. I have written CSS this time, but you can also use XPath or any other locator, ID locator. So if I copy the URL, and if I run it, let us check whether we are getting some text in our output. So this is the method we have to use, get the text. So website open, we should see this text in our output. So you can see this, it has printed the text. So this is how you can fetch the text of any element on the browser. Is it clear to everyone? Okay, I hope it is clear. So let us try to do this one more time. If you want to get this text, if I want to fetch the text present on this button. So first I need to write one XPath, one unique XPath. So what can be the XPath? Let me say starts with CSS starts with so this is name, right? So this is our CSS. So I want to fetch the text which is check availability with the help of getText method. So if I write this instead of this one, I will use some other CSS. This is the CSS. I am using getText method, right? And also I have changed the URL. So let us see what it prints in the output. So I think it has finished. But if you see, no output is printed. Can anyone tell me the reason that why it is not printed any output this time? Anyone? Okay, so no issue. Let me tell you the reason why we are not getting any text. If you see the difference,
It is the button, right? That is right.
what it is?
It is a button, right? Like the text was from the button, right? That's the reason it's not displaying anything.
No, no, no. This is not the reason. If you see this, let us compare these two. Here we are getting applied get text, and we will get this. I think today's deal we got yes. Right. If you see this text, whatever you are seeing here, is not inside any attribute. Right. It is outside of any attribute. But if you see this one, check availability, the text is present inside one attribute, right? Not outside. So here get text will not going to provide you. Get text will only provide you the data which is text if it is present outside of any tag, like this fashion, in this fashion, right? Mobiles outside of this any tag. So here we are not going to get text because, right, it will return you null value because the text is present inside one attribute. So here I have to use one other attribute, one other method to fetch the text. As I identified that the value is present inside value attribute. So copy this attribute. So instead of get text here, I have to use some other method, which is get attribute. So here provide the attribute value. The attribute name is value, and if you run this program, it will this time going to get the text. So this is the difference. So this can again be interview question. Right? They may ask you then in what condition get text will work, why the get text is not working here. Right? You can see check availability. This time we are fetching based on getting the value attribute. So you can get some other attribute value if you want to get the ID value you can use, right? So this is the difference. Just suppose if I am entering anything here, I hope this previous part is clear that why we are using get attribute instead of get text. If I open Google, let me take this. I want to enter some data, or yes, so let me check. Let If I want to get some data, uh, first I will write CSS, or you can say, what is the shortcut of CSS? If you know the ID, you can simply say hash ID. So this is the CSS. So I will copy the CSS, and instead of this one, I will write driver dot find element by dot xpath, sorry, by dot css. This is the CSS dot send keys. I want to send some data which is watches, right? And after that, see, if you write watches here, right? So it will display some data. But I want to fetch the text, which means I want to get this data back in my console. So if I try to use get text, right, I will again copy the same line after entering the watches. If I write instead of send keys, I want to get the data which I have entered in our text box. So if I try to use get text, so I will catch that in one string data equals to this. And if I try to print, let us see whether it is able to print or not, whether it is able to print or not. So let me change the website URL again, which is, so if I copy the URL, so what is the error? What I'm doing, I'm launching the URL, I'm entering watches, and I'm trying to fetch the same text again and print it in my console window. So which is this one, Eclipse one. So if I try to run, so it will enter watches. It has entered, and let us see whether it has printed anything. So again, it has not printed anything, right? So if I just modify this, instead of get text, if I try to use this dot, and if I say value, and if I run this, well, let us check whether we are able to print. So first it will enter watches, and after that you can see this time it is able to get the text which we have entered here. So the reason is, whenever you will find any text box, right, you can try with it any text box, like whenever you will enter any text into the text box, so by default it will be captured into value attribute. So suppose if I have written washing machine, so by default, as it is a text box, so washing machine will be placed inside value attribute, right? So in case of text box, you have to use this one, get attribute value. Similarly, if you want to see one more, like if I take the example of google.com, if you see this, try to do the same. Like if you want to get the text is present inside value attribute. if you apply get text, you are not going to see any data in your console output, right? And similarly, if I enter some data here, like if I enter like this, and if I inspect this, right? So basically, at the back end, there is one attribute which is value, even if you are not seeing it. But if you apply get text, you will not again going to get any data, right? So which method you have to use? You have to use get attribute. After that, provide value, right? So this is how you can use. Is it clear to everyone? Okay, so no questions, so that we will see some other concepts in the next lecture, so that you can practice till the time XPath and CSS. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
so can you share this notepad?
Yeah. Let me share now. Should I share here? Let me share this whole. You can copy it and place it in your notepad. So
You can share it in Telegram, right? Like,
let me share. I will share there as well. This one. So you can copy it from here. So please copy, so that otherwise I will end the meeting, so it will disappear. So thank you everyone for attending the session.